I find your lack of boundaries infuriating and your fawning devotion irksome. But your ability does have its investigative perks.
She's even crueler in person.
Leave.
When you think about Wednesday Season 2, you probably remember all the creepy twists, the gothic settings, and the way every episode felt like it could turn the story upside down at any second. But what a lot of people don't realize is that there were a bunch of scenes that either never made it past the cutting room floor or were simply too strange, too expensive, or just didn't quite fit the vibe. These deleted or unfilmed moments could have changed how we saw certain characters, shaped big story beats differently, or even altered the tone of the entire season. Because of that, it's fun to look back and imagine how Season 2 might have felt if these scenes had actually made it into the final product. One of the most interesting examples comes from the big finale, where Isaac is about to bury Wednesday alive. Fans remember that the scene was tense and terrifying, but what they don't know is that originally there was supposed to be a short conversation between Wednesday and Tyler. In the final version, it was silent, which helped keep the mood heavy, but in the early cut, Tyler had a line where he taunted Wednesday about her fate. The reason it was cut is pretty revealing. Tyler's dialogue was fine, but Wednesday's reply just didn't sound like her. It didn't land with the sharp, cold delivery that fans expect from her, and instead, it fell out of character, so the writers decided to remove it altogether. There was another reason too. Including that line would have shifted how audiences saw Tyler. In the show, Tyler is supposed to be this conflicted figure, someone who isn't fully evil, but is still trapped under the control of others. First, Marilyn Thornhill in Season 1, and then his mother and Uncle Isaac in Season 2. If he had mocked Wednesday during that burial scene, it would have made him look like he actually wanted her to die. But that's not the version of Tyler the writers were going for. They wanted him to come across as pressured, confused, and torn, not cold-hearted. After all, if Tyler really wanted Wednesday gone, he had opportunities earlier, like when she was in Willow Hill Hospital, but he didn't take them. So by cutting that little moment, the show preserved his gray morality and even left the door open for a hint of lingering feelings toward Wednesday, since the two did have that romantic connection in Season 1. It's a small detail, but those subtle choices matter because they keep the audience guessing about whether Tyler could ever redeem himself or whether there's still some spark between him and Wednesday that might show up again in Season 3. The finale almost had another very different beat as well. During the big explosion at Iago Tower, Morticia was supposed to get badly injured, even knocked unconscious by the blast. In that version, Pugsley was going to use his electric powers to bring her back to life. It would have been a huge heroic moment for him, really showing his growth. But that entire scene never even got filmed. Isaac Ordonez, the actor who plays Pugsley, later explained it in an interview that it was cut for budget reasons. Some fans joked that the money probably went to pay for Lady Gaga's involvement, whether it was her appearance or her music rights, but jokes aside, there are deeper reasons why it might not have fit. For one thing, Pugsley's character is still developing. Throughout Season 2, he's shown as someone who usually relies on others for help, not as a fully independent hero. So suddenly having him revive Morticia with powerful abilities might have felt rushed. It would have been cool to see, sure, but it also could have made his growth feel too fast. The writers probably wanted to keep that arc gradual, so maybe in future seasons, we'll get to see him step up in a bigger way when the timing feels more earned. Another deleted moment involved Tyler and his mother, Francoise. Originally, there was a scene of the two of them playing cards together. At first glance, that sounds like a nice, calm way to show their bond, but it didn't really make sense for where their relationship was at that point in the story. Their connection was tense, complicated, and filled with distrust. Tyler loved his mom, but he had already tried to kill her twice back at Willow Hill, so a light-hearted card game just didn't line up with the emotions they were dealing with. In that version, the game gets interrupted when Isaac shows up and both Tyler and Francoise look startled. That explains their expressions, but overall, the vibe felt wrong. The creators replaced that card game with a dinner scene where Francoise serves Tyler a meal and tries to show him affection. That worked much better because it highlighted the emotional tug-of-war between them. Françoise was still trying to reach out, to rebuild some trust with her son, even though the relationship was fractured. That tension created a more meaningful moment for both characters, and it carried a weight that a casual card game just couldn't deliver. It's one of those examples where the edit really made the final story stronger. Now, not all of the deleted footage was dramatic. Some of it was just plain funny. For instance, there's a clip floating around of Jenna Ortega dancing in the super bubbly, cheerful way that looks completely unlike Wednesday Addams. At first, people thought it might have been a cutscene, but in reality, it was just Jenna practicing for a body switch gag. There was supposed to be a moment where Wednesday and Enid swap bodies after a curse, so Jenna was rehearsing Enid's dance moves. It looks hilarious and totally out of character for Wednesday, but it wasn't meant for the actual show. It was just behind-the-scenes fun. Still, it's always entertaining to see the cast goofing around like that. Moving from deleted content to behind-the-scenes secrets, there's a lot about Season 2's production that fans might not know. Take Thing, for example. A lot of people assume the character is CGI, but that's not true. Thing is played by a magician named Victor Durabantu, who wears a blue suit so only his hand shows up on camera. That means all those scenes of Thing running around, grabbing things, or even fighting are actually done practically. At one point, Victor had to handle real knives for a scene, risking injury to the hand that's basically his whole character. That level of commitment shows just how much effort went into making Thing look convincing. The sets also weren't as fake as some viewers might assume. Nevermore Academy itself was filmed at a real castle in Ireland, Charleville Castle, and the production team went to incredible lengths to make everything feel authentic. They even rebuilt the castle's large window on a soundstage so they could cut between the real location and the set without it looking obvious. The gargoyles scattered around the building weren't digital either. They were all hand-sculpted one by one. Even the gates outside the academy were built on a real road with a seminary behind them to make the shots look natural. And when it came to Iago Tower, instead of just using visual effects, the team actually constructed a full collapsed tower set out of steel and dug into the stage floor to give it real depth. That's why it looked so tangible on screen, because it pretty much was. One of the coolest secrets involved the famous dead dance sequence. The music for that scene was kept so tightly under wraps that even the choreographer barely got to hear it before filming. He was sent a private link that expired after just a few minutes, meaning he had to listen in isolation and memorize everything quickly. The actors had to rehearse their moves without the actual song, just counting beads and drumming sounds, which makes their final performance even more impressive. Of course, some effects were digital, like Ajax's snake hair. But even then, the production didn't just rely on computers. On set, the actor wore a bald cap covered in tracking stickers so the animators had precise guides for the CGI snakes. It took him over 2 hours every day just to get into makeup for that look, proving that even when effects are digital, they're grounded in real on-set preparation. When you put all those pieces together, the deleted moments, the cut ideas, the behind-the-scenes magic, you can see just how many directions Wednesday Season 2 could have gone. Some of those lost scenes would have made certain characters feel colder or more heroic, while others might have shifted relationships in surprising ways. But the choices the creators made ultimately kept the tone consistent and the characters layered, which is probably why this season worked as well as it did. Well, that's it for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe because we'll be covering more updates on this soon and other exciting upcoming movies and series. See you next time!